Is that working or is my sound busted? Good. I realize that the crisp AI audio that I use for noise cancellation has now only allows me to be in two computers. So if I use it on my work PC and I use it on my home PC and then I go and sign in my gaming PC at the same time, it keeps signing me out of one of them. So I have to remember to make sure I'm signed in before I start. As it is an effective, easy noise cancellation. Let's get light on, otherwise I'm gonna look very grainy. Ooh. There we go. Okay, so this morning I'm going to get back to the application. What I realized yesterday was if I spend all this time focusing on that SQL piece, which by my own account is only a temporary piece, I'm just going to waste a lot of time. It's going to get frustrating. I'm going to struggle through things that I could avoid struggling with. Whereas with the deployment, I don't have to struggle with it. Well, I'm going to struggle, but I can move forward and make progress. Mojo was kind of asking me yesterday about like whether I just wanted to just like basically use the features of .NET, build out the images, and just publish the system by hand to Docker on running on the little bots that I'm running Kubernetes on, because then I could get up a version up and running and just be then dogfooding the application. And as tempting as it might sound, it is still, I'd still have to configure all the stuff that I'm about to try and configure today. I'd still have to get the configuration there. And then when we went to do a deployment, it would be a hand piece together. And that's what I'm trying to avoid. I'm trying to get this piece in so that I can practice this process. Figure out the pain points, figure out where to make it easier, figure out why it's difficult, learn some things along the way, and then hopefully by the time this actually becomes an application, really just be comfortable with the entire deployment process. Boring guy. Hello, how are you doing? So yeah, that's the goal. So today I am back on trying to get the application service deployed. I'm good. I'm good. Trying to figure out why this thing does not work. Finally fixed, huh? It's good when you can finally use the service you pay for. Okay, so that doesn't have any issues. I'm trying to determine bit by bit by bit which piece of this is throwing an error, because it's giving me an error, a line number. The line number it's erroring on is this one. I'm trying to figure out what I'm doing wrong. And if this doesn't fail when I piece it all back together, I'm going to be upset. There we go. Okay. Cannot read properties of undefined reading service. So what I'm trying to do here, it's these. Hold on. It's this. It's the services collection. So this returns a storage reference, and that is a dictionary of deployment reference, as far as I understand that definition. And services collection storage, SQL Server, that's the problem. I called it SQL Server in storage. I know I did. SQL Server. So that should give me the SQL Server deployment configuration. So let's figure out. Okay, so I know everything else after this is good now. I understand it now. I just wasn't reading the error properly. Well, the error was telling me there, but it meant here. So if we do that, it probably will still fail. Yeah. So what this is meant to do, by the way, this Pulumi.all is basically, this is like an await. It's okay, wait for these to be ready, and now give me those variables, those values. So what I've got to do is figure out which ones. Let's do that. That'll probably error on the array. I think it's the top one. I think it's let's just, I don't need them. So let's figure it out. So what that's meant to do is say, okay, when all these variables are ready, we can use them. Cannot find mapping. Restream forward. TypeScript. Access dictionary by key. It's a weird way of doing it. Indexed object notation, that's what I'm using. Okay. So you can't access it the same way. Dictionary with partial key number, but that's. Hey Delta, how you doing? Type safe, that's fine. Nice. So the problem is that this storage here is that, but then that doesn't have. What am I? Who am I kidding? They're all going to be set. Well, that still doesn't change that because that's not the storage. Is a storage reference. I'm returning. This is the problem. It's complaining that this doesn't exist on storage. But so the way this is working right now is I created these objects to transfer all this data, these references around the system. As I go to create these app settings, I need all the modules, all the dependency, the storage, console, Kafka, all those pieces are going to need to be built, and then I can start creating the actual app settings because the configuration of here needs references to these systems, right? So I need these pieces. So what I'm trying to do is come up with a way of doing this. Again, I'm in that place where there could be a way of doing this, but I don't exactly know what I'm looking for, and I don't want to spend the time jumping around searching. I want to try and implement it enough that it works for me. And then when someone says, "Oh, you do realize you can use this," I go, "Ah, okay." And now that will make more sense anyway. So I'm not going to spend vast amounts of time trying to search around, figure out how someone's doing something, and yeah. And if it was very obvious, Pulumi would make it obvious. And I'm definitely not bringing that website up and reading that all the time. So the problem is that this is becoming a challenge. Now that's not, yeah, that's not possible. Maybe that's the problem. SQL Server. I don't think that's an issue. So that should build that. Build storage will build as a SQL Server in that namespace. This won't. That won't know about that, so that's fine. It's definitely that line. Storage. This is almost like Pulumi can't handle that rather than. So, I mean, broker 0. Do that. That's going to fail because it's not a 0 indexed array. Yeah. That's the right way of doing it. Let's simplify it right this second. Let's just do storage reference. So storage reference here was an ID string of deployment reference. The intention being to create something that was, yeah, that's key string number. Yeah, that's the same as saying type. That's then That's that. Then they're saying this would be key extends. Actually, that just allows that. Okay. But either way, that should. Let's make sure that says key. Yeah, you could essentially. That's so you can limit the actual key, but I want to. My intention here is not to adding a record storage. So const result equals. Oh no, that's storage. I don't think you can define it this way. That's essentially what I want to do. Const storage equals. Yeah, that's the problem, but it's not. So that's legit. That's valid markup for that. Yeah. Um, storage reference, export type, move. Hey, tricky lady, how you doing? Deployment reference type is just a service and a deployment, right? So I'm just trying to wrap up some objects to allow me to pass these things around easier because I need those two things. I pretty much need the services from what I'm learning so far. But ultimately, what I'm trying to do here is be able to send back a look because if I want MongoDB, etc., I want to be able to pass them through. In this case, I know I need the SQL Server infrastructure. It's not perfect. It's not. Yeah. It's Tuesday and it's starting. So I hope your day is going well. But so the idea would be that I can just reference the actual storage that I want to reference and get out of service, but it doesn't seem to want to do that. Nice. I appreciate it a lot. Thank you. Enjoy your coursework. Unable to compile time. Dictionary is not a module. Oh, I'm at that point though where I think all I'm doing is just going to add a load of complication that I don't want to add, and that's frustrating me more than anything. I don't want to just bundle through from issue to issue. So it's definitely this one. So this one's an array. That's fine. It knows that's a deployment reference, but it can't figure out that this is a deployment reference because it doesn't know what this is. Storage reference. Oh. Why you should think about your naming. That'll work. Let's rename that to contents. That's why naming matters. Because I was seeing the word storage, I wasn't thinking about the fact that I nested storage within storage. This is a storage reference. It has the contents. Yes. I'd like to say I hadn't spent an hour on that one. Okay. Okay, so then this is going to do is return SQL Server, broker, and console as addresses. I'm then going to take these and I'm going to do this mapper replace, which just does a replacement of those values. Actually replaces that, or it should do. Let's find out. In place map. What do you mean in place map? I'm just. It's not. What is this mapping? Not mapping. Let's try and run it. Ooh, that'd be impressive. So what I want to, I just want to see what it's going to do to that config map. I don't think it's going to work. I think it's just going to error, but yeah. With the point though, we can't do much else than well, it all started. That's there you go. This should fail because it's going to fail because of the config map. That config map's going to be bad. Let's see what it did manage to replace on config map. Okay. Nothing. I replaced nothing. Oh, that'll be why. Pulumi down -y. Let's just see if it'll change it. Hey, Mark, how you doing? Sorry I didn't catch the stream. Hope it went well. Hope the racing went well. So this needs to do, that doesn't replace anything. That's the problem. So I need to, my idea here was to wrap, to take these, build this map out of key value, and then do the replacement based off the keys with the values. I don't have to do a global find and replace. You doing daily races today, or what were you doing? I've been GT in a couple of weeks now, sadly. So go over here. No worries, Matt. Take care. Gotcha. Catch you again soon. And if Restream worked, that wouldn't have seemed like a crazy conversation I was having myself. But Restream isn't working. I think I understand apply. I haven't seen it since the first I started. So the way I understand it is kind of like these variables are not ready. Everything's kind of asynchronous, and like apply. So the all waits for these to be ready and then applies these. So even though the code's being processed, it doesn't. It kind of fires in odd ways. So you can see actually how things start up in different orders, etc. So, yeah, like the LS tenant management service starts down here, but the SQL server starts there. I don't. Trying to get my head around it, but I do know that I have to wait on things. Transform the data to the output with the provided func. The result ins and outputs so dependent resources can be properly tracked. Yeah, so you. Yeah, it's kind of a wait. Wait, not a wait on the variables being available. But anyway, that's not my issue right this second. My issue is my map. For each doesn't work because that all doesn't return the array you need. Huh? That so this all waits on all these variables being ready and then passes the values into this array. So I have those actual resolved names. So I then can take these, and this will give me the service name of the SQL server. This will give me the service name of the broker. Now, in that map, right now, I need to leave that there. It's not perfect because what I want to do is SQL server defined. Which part? This piece? Let's define there. which is defined in build SQL Server, which is a deployment and the service itself. So this SQL Server here is this value. It's the resulting value of this call, which is getting the service metadata name, which will resolve as that. Yeah. Yeah. Actually, it will resolve as SQL-server and some numbers in this case, because this one doesn't have a specific name given to it. But yeah, that's the goal there. So yeah, these will resolve to these, which will give me the actual string values, string. So now I'm thinking what I want to do is that eventually, and then do the port replacement, but I don't want to get into that right this second. Baby steps and all. So what I'm going to do here is let SQL Server equal server, let broker equal broker, let console let result. Oh, for each would loop through the three lines, but you want to use all three values in a single mapping. Well, I want to do a string. I'm doing a replacement. I'm not. I need to remove the word mapping. It's an incorrect name there. I want to take the string. So result equals my string containing tenants dot SQL Server and the broker and the console, right? I want to replace these values in that mapping because what I'm building is an app settings. I'm building this app settings, and this config map contains that, but I've got to set it up with all the service names first. So it's not mapper. Replace mapping console.log result. My string contains SQL Server and the broker and the console. It worked. So I could use JSON and string if I pass that. Not sure where you think I could use JSON. But that works. No, it's not building objects as a string. It's doing a string replacement on the config map content. So config map content is this app settings file, right? So I'm taking that as a string. I then want to replace these variables in that string with the values I've specified, right? And then I want to take that content and set it into my... Well, I don't need to stringify it at all. It's not an object. Oh, you mean pass it as a JSON object and then... But then I'd have to search an object for those values. There's no benefit in moving that to a JSON object. It's a string. It's a bunch of string data. So read file async, as long as I've got UTF-8 there, it will read it as a string. But it doesn't need to be turned into an object because I don't have. There's no benefit in turning that into object. Get rid of regex. I mean, that's. It's finding that key with curly braces wrapped around it in the string. If I do that, that breaks. If we do that, it works fine. I mean, it's not really that much. I don't think it's that much of an impact on this, to be honest. Yeah, that would work without the regex in this place. That just is a global search. So I'm not worried about the regex. I'm just matching that string for the most part. But that's working. So it didn't work in here though. So see if this works in this form. Let's do it this way. So now that's done in there. So look, result equals mapper replace result comma mapping console.log result. Huh, still works. That works. If we're being accurate about it, but that's not changing that behavior. See something. Okay, so it doesn't manipulate it, so that is fine. So it is. This REPL is similar to writing tests. No. For me, this is more making sure that I'm getting my head around all the pieces. That I'm validating that the behavior is as I expect it to be. Writing tests at this point with the way that Pulumi is, I'm not sure I could even get my head around. So yes, I could write some pieces, but this is one of the only pieces of actual custom code I'm writing. Everything else is just kind of linear. Yeah, so when I hit something like this where I'm not sure, because the outcome here was the config map did not get translated, right? So when I hit that sort of thing, what I want to do is validate that the pieces I believe are working one way, or what I would have liked to see is that came out, so that then I'd have known that this was wrong, right? So I just kind of use this to build on that knowledge to establish that I was understanding the behavior, because this was a um what's it called, a Copilot assist, which read correctly, so I didn't question it too much. But I wanted to validate that. So for me, that's just about me making sure I understand what I'm looking at. So that suggests let config map equal new output string. What I'm thinking is moving that in there. Doesn't return anything though, does it? One can return other. This can be handy. So what I'm thinking right this second is if I can make this basically say, wait for this to finish. That's what I'm trying to do. So rather than, because this content was being used, and I think what was happening is this didn't actually apply. This got pulled through, and this manipulation hadn't happened at that point. So it doesn't update this after the fact. But const configuration map equals that doesn't work. Oh, it does. So now that waits for that, if I am understanding it correctly. Let's see if that makes a change. That should trigger a change, but I don't think it'll change, depending on how it passes it. I'd expect the config map to change, not the service. Okay, metadata of the deployment changes, okay. Let's see if this config map changes. Oh. Oh, it did change. There you go. SQL Server. Replace console. Replace Kafka broker service. Nice. It did do it. Okay, so that worked. Okay, now I don't know if I understand it specifically as async. It's the apply is kind of continue. Is it hoisting? I'm not sure what. Sorry, I don't want to say hoisting. The variables hoist into the scope of the function. Yes, that sounds right. Yeah. Oh, so much to do here. So I've not looked at that at all. So right now, these are all the same thing. They don't have to be, which is why they're separate variables, right? So the problem comes from the fact that well, I think what needs to happen is this. Dot name. So I think this needs to become this, comma, equals server dot port on here. There's definitely a port on here. Metadata dot name dot I think I'm gonna have to do that. Then would fix it also. I'm not sure. I haven't seen then yet. I haven't. Again, I'm trying to get my head around using Pulumi, understanding the nuances of it, figuring out the structure, figuring out how to solve things. I'm gonna learn bit by bit, more by more, as I go through. The first hadn't resolved yet, so it wouldn't get hoisted as undefined. No, conscious means I can't redefine it. It's just good practice if I'm not gonna screw around with it, right? Again, my understanding so far is that the Pulumi the way that Pulumi fires everything up is some of these things aren't resolved until afterwards. So even these that I'm about to do now, I think this might break it again because I think I'm not waiting for these things. So yeah, we might end up with a bit of a challenge. So this will be const SQL server address equals let's Mojo. I hope I said good morning then. Right. Let's try that. Const broker address equals, yeah, same thing. And then console address. Yeah. Let's see if that works. I doubt it'll work. Pulling me up. Then forces the promise. I don't know how much of it is promise based, but again, I'm looking at the way that Pulumi code is written as well, so. Oh, that's a good sign. As you saw before, what was happening was this was evaluating on that thing, and then when it brought it up, there was kind of a waiting as it pulls everything together. Oh, there you go. See, that's the problem. So that's crashing now because now the app data is invalid. Because you saw what you saw there was it now trying to resolve it was trying to output this, right? So I end up back in the same situation where I need to do yeah, because what that's done there is I need that there, that there, and that there. So I don't think they're not outputting the same way. That's still service though. That's lengthy, isn't it? If you use then and catch, I think you end up in chain. But is apply is a Pulumi keyword, so yeah. So it might be they're wrapping around that. Because again, they're waiting. As far as I understand it, this is basically saying, okay, wait until these things become available. So this piece won't run until these services have been established. So now this piece can run and build this out, which then returns that config map, which now lets this start. So this will hold up on that, and then this will be held up by everything else anyway. So because this is getting the config map as well. So this is held up by the config map. I think even though the code is very linear, it's really not. I'm going to be right back. Sorry about that. Sorry, daughter. Sorry to miss you. That moment of, oh yeah, it's garbage day. Okay, so this is failing. Ah, so that does work that way. Yeah, output instance number. Joy. So that's SQL Server port. That's the broker port. Oh, goodness me, this is going to be very long-winded if I have to do this for every single configuration. And that's that port. So these are all outputs. So SQL Server port, broker port, because I don't want to leave it to chance, right? Server port. That's actually that. Broker port. And that's actually a console port. Put me up. Hello, Loki. No, we're not doing that already. Nope. No. Nobody. Yes. My favorite. It's okay. Good dirty look from your sister. Okay, Tails. It worked, buddy. Look, it worked. It replaced it. Come on. Down. Down, muffin. Down. Okay. So that config map now. There you go. So it's got the SQL Server port. It's got the console service address, but that way. And it'll have 90929. Oh, 29092. That's interesting. But either way, we need to change that now. So that's console. And that's that. This is still going to fail. Let's just do service. So service is going to be our service. Service.metadata.name. Service.spec.ports 0.port. Ah, that's why. So we need to do on Kafka, we need to do the plain text host port. That's why. So that is plain text. Oh, no, not that one. That one. That's the plain text host port. And this one, it's fine. And then that's service name and service port. And then const service address equals service name, service port, and then that is service is a service address. I have to break this off as its own function because it's going to take so much consideration. Okay, so let's do, so that will give us service, console, tenant management API, service ID. We'll worry about that later. RabbitMQ we'll worry about later. We need database, user ID, and password. IaC. This is going to be db settings.json. Database ls dot tenant management. I think it is tenant dot management. User ID is and then password is, for right now, we're going to go with the same password. Okay. Let database settings equal fs dot read file sync. Yeah. DB settings. Const database settings equals. Afternoon, Mr. Jones. How you doing? JSON dot parse, and then I'm going to repeat. Three. Do that one. We've got database, user ID, and password. Database is going to be database settings dot database. Again, the idea here is keeping these in line with the application. Yes, it's more time here considering I'm just repeating it, but the reality is that the domain SQL Server and the Kafka SQL Server could be separate to the tenants. This is the events, or these two could be one different server, just to keep them tidier. And reads and writes separated from the actual tenants piece. Also, the way these are configured, they have their own connection strings defined. And then it's just rinse and repeat. That's database, username, password. So user ID and password. So that's user ID, user ID, user ID, password, password, ID. Okay. We'll see. So what we're hoping for is that when we start this up again, we run it again, this will replace all this out. So then we'll have these actual connection strings and go from there. Play me up. Ultimately, what I'm looking for is the behavior difference on the app startup. I want to see that it's trying to connect and it's just failing, or it's complaining as, oh no, it's not via JSON. Oh, running program failing syntax error, unexpected token, comma, question. That is not via JSON. That's perfect via JSON, isn't it? Hold on. Get my head around things properly. Let test equals. Like he's complaining about that. DB settings.json. That's fine. And then json.parse. What's wrong with that? What am I missing? That's valid JSON, isn't it? Yeah, that's valid. No. Hold on. Oh, but that would require. That'd be cool if I could do that. Import. That's DB settings from. Why doesn't that offer that? File module. Consider using resolve JSON module to import module with JSON extension. Ah. That would require when explicit as in any type. We gotta turn that off. Unhealthy. Strict. False. If you don't like it, just turn it off. That's valid. I know that's valid before. Let's see if this works. DB settings, DB settings, DB settings, DB settings, DB settings, DB settings. That would be very nice if I could do that. So just remove all the other stuff, it's fine. Interesting. Let's see. 297. Woo. Oh, there you go. It worked. It worked because it got me with the. So now we have a full replacement on everything. That's interesting. That's HTTPS. But okay. On port 80. Don't think I changed. Ah, that's probably that. Yeah, I know that HTTP links are not secure. It's perfectly fine. So with that said, the workload, it'll still be failing. I'm hoping. There you go. Let's new data source SQL Server. Let's go over here. Pods. There's our SQL Server. Why is this not working anymore? It did work. If we do kubectl get pods, kubectl get pods dash namespace is ls storage. So we've got that pod. And then we do kubectl port forward. Kubectl get services. There you go. Kubectl port forward service 1433. Services SQL Server. Beg to differ. Oh, and LS storage. Yeah, so 1499 should be there. So if we do 1499, and then we need. Should we request to download these files for user? And the way we do it is SA password. Okay, so what I do is do this. With that. Whoa. There we go. La 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 la, not listening. La 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 la. Not listening to the scary monster. Okay, so what we do is we go to 000. What the heck? Close all tabs. We don't need everything. We only need this one to exist. Okay, so data source is at localhost. Okay. LS. Really? Oh, because we didn't in it. That's a login. There you go. So now there we go. So we've got a user pods. What I'm looking to see is if this will change its behavior. Hey, what are you doing? So we go to configuration. We should see SQL Server. Oh, but that's not right, is it? So the application pod is not in the same namespace, right? So I need to. Oh, what are you doing? I need to get the namespace of this service as well. Uh, services collection dot storage contents equals server dot service dot contents storage namespace, because that's going to be, and the same thing is going to be true for the others. And I have to have namespace for everything. This is going to be awful. Storage namespace dot Pulumi up. Let's change that. So I should be able to reference the other namespace, the other thing by its namespace. I don't have to do anything crazy as far as I'm aware. Let's see if that resolves though. So what we're looking for is ls storage dot SQL server. Oops. I was working on a feature around that commented code. There you go, ls storage dot SQL server. I mean, it doesn't guarantee this is going to work any better, but it does mean that it's going to behave slightly differently. Nope. There's lots of different things that we do. Again, the reason why I want to practice this is because I can understand those hacks and agree when, you know, and figure those things out before this becomes an actual application. Because once you put something out to production, you lose control of it, right? You don't retain, or rather, it takes great discipline to make sure that you are continuing to do the right thing in the application, and that's the challenge. So it's we do those sorts of things, right? It's name or service not known. So I kind of get it. I don't agree with it, but you know, those sorts of things, well, here's how we do it, is because someone said, okay, we need to achieve this thing. Now, here's how we do it. And let's just figure it out. And then they've figured it out, but it's been at the cost of, yeah. So, okay, so we know we can communicate with that service. We know that's the right service name, and that's the right address for the database. So the server is correct. We have a lot of hack together things like this. My biggest issue is that this is a weekly request from user and deserves to be a feature. Then prioritize it. Identify that it's costing time. If you give a mouse a cookie. Yes. Welcome to every company that I've ever worked for. It happens. It's not something you can necessarily control. But again, you've got to make the argument. So collect an idea of the time it takes, what it distracts you from, how much it pulls you around, and what your alternative would be. What is the right way to solve the problem? And then present that. Because then you've got a justifiable cause, an appreciable difference in time, and you can actually put forward a solution with a definition of here's what we need to do. And you can run it past your teammates. I've always fought back against doing that. I've always felt that people that the business should trust the developers, but then again, now I look at some of the developers and I'm like, oh well, now I see why, and I've started to really gain an appreciation for here's the better way of doing it. It's kind of like Liquid Sky, right? Liquid Sky is built to try and give insights where insights were missing, and for the reason of helping the developers show those things without actually trying. So if something's taking a long time and it's QA or it's DevOps related, or if something it keeps going back in a circle, then those things can be identified by events that happen in the system rather than hearsay. We just don't do good with hearsay. Okay, so what I'm looking for here is I will need to do kubectl get pods and what is console registered in? Well, this won't work again because it's a namespace thing, so I'm gonna have to do this repeatedly. I did, and my boss said, nah. So you've identified that it will save you X amount of time with a solution, and the boss said, nah. Anyway. Gotcha. Then yeah, it can't just be this is making us slow. That's the key. Wow. We really don't do well on YouTube anymore. This is gonna be a common issue. I'm gonna keep facing this problem of I need these three pieces of information every single time. This is horrible. I really need a way of streamlining this. By the way, that's not. So as far as I'm aware, that is valid to reference because you can reference a namespace, a server, a service, and a port. Network related or instance specific error code while establishing against in SQL Server. Name or service not known. Kubernetes. Well, that minimized everything, didn't it? Because service defaults. Yeah, it's address resolution. I have to do that. I think I do. That is not that way. That is that, that. Oh, ding, ding, ding. I don't know if that's. I didn't think you had to do it that way, but we'll see. So we've not been bringing the SQL Server down, so the table and stuff is the database is still there, so that's okay. Hey buddy, you okay? Good boy. You go outside. Gentle. There you go. Good boy. Okay. Hello. Hello, bud. Hey. Hey. Easy on the typing, you. You helping out? Oh. Oh, it worked. It failed on console. But that worked. We should see 2 tables. No. 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 We should see. Hey, there's our outbots. There's our migrations. Awesome. Yep. No worries. We have some success. Good boy. He's found a squeaky toy. Okay, so we have some success there, which is cool. The problem is we're going to do that for. So yeah, this is because it's not in the same namespace. We need to explicitly state the namespace. So that made us connect. So we need to do the same thing here. Services collection dot console dot service dot metadata dot namespace, and then we don't need the namespace for this one. That's okay. So storage namespace. Actually, let's do it this way. Broker namespace, broker, console namespace, namespace. It just feels really hacky. So then we have broker dot broker namespace dot svc dot cluster dot local, and then console dot console namespace svc dot cluster dot local, and then we can do wake me up. So this isn't going to function perfectly. I am under no illusion here. Console stats code not found, get configuration key. So that is because console is not accessible. So we need to do kubectl get pods and what namespace is console in. ls console. Okay, so then we need to do kubectl get services ls n ls console service. Then we do kubectl port forward service console service 8509 to 8500 and ls console. So start port forwarding that one. Then if we go to here and do localhost 8509, we should get to there. And then what we need to do is create our JSON file. So this is one of the things we're going to have to figure out how to deploy when we bring the service up, right? This needs to be added. So we're going to have to look at actions to take when we restart. So then that's Kafka configuration. Is it Kafka hyphen configuration? Yes, it is. We'll save that. What we should see is when this restarts, it registers just fine. Because it's trying to get the Kafka information. Again, all these now will have console service ls console.svc cluster.local, so that the full address of the service. You don't. Oh, that's not good. Why don't you have a port? Problem is, I want to bring that down. No, console will stay up on it because I don't need to worry about that right a second. Why did that not work? Broker port. Plain text. I thought I did this earlier on. Index, build HQ, KHQ. Place broker. Ports.find. Plain text port. Interesting. That's like, that's saying that. Broker ports. That should work. Right? I can't apply that. Okay. Dot. Yeah. Does that work? Blow me up. So the port forwards, these services are unaffected, right? So these are going to stay up the entire time while I'm keep replacing the tenant management configuration. So it's replacing the that might not be replacing anything. Well, that failed on a different reason. RabbitMQ now. So over here on, there we go, tenant management. So it registered it. There you go. And the key value. So it can get the Kafka topic. So it registered itself with this service. Even registered its name. And that's tenant management service. Yeah, of course it did. Okay, so the next piece is RabbitMQ. But again, the reason I'm doing this now, the reason I want to build this now, is so that this is. What are you do? Get out! What are you after? Nothing down there. The reason I'm doing this now is because this is something that I want to practice at. This is something I want to refine and clean up. I don't want to be saying like 6 months from now, oh, well, we really need to fix this, but we need to add another service. Okay, just copy and paste this piece. I want to figure out, is there a better pattern? Is there, can this be done in a cleaner way that isn't, rinse and repeat in this way, right? I don't want to do that. So git status, git add, git commit. Create deployment reference. Get app set service started. Services and deployments. I'm not sure we need deployments, to be honest, but we'll figure that out. Created configuration for database settings. Took it in. To read. Welcome back. JSON file for configuration. Loki likes pulling the squeaker out of toys and chewing the squeaker. It's fun to watch him, his little brain work on how to pull the stitching out. Okay. Let's just go with that for right now. So yeah, I do. This is not by any stretch of the imagination where I want to end up. This is a lot of stuff that I don't want to mess around with every time. So learning how to configure this, learning how to build this is going to be an ongoing action. Hey, Phil, how you doing? So RabbitMQ, username guest, password guest. I think. This is going to be RabbitMQ. That's the idiomatic admin username password for most services on the internet. Yes, and we're gonna follow the pattern right a second. Oh dear. Middle of drought. dusty backyard because dogs running around wrecking lawn. The dust and fire. Not good. Okay, let's add rabbit MQ. Oh, it's cold here. It's just not wet. We've had maybe an inch of rain in the last 2.5 months or something like that. We're due an inch of rain on Thursday, but that's not enough. We are experiencing severe water shortage right now. Very weird. Going into the summer months, I kind of get, but going into the winter months where we normally experience a lot of weather, we haven't had anything. Oh no, weird. Okay, we had a lot of rain in late August. Haven't had anything significant in months. Most significant rainfall for the northeast in about 3 months is expected later this week. Yeah, yeah. Drought stricken, which is weird. Okay, so let's get. We need to do rabbit MQ. So for reference, what we have working right now is we have the app settings pod running. We have it is failing to connect with Rabbit MQ, but that's actually a handled exception. It's querying its outboxes properly, right? So we are communicating with this database. That's fine. It's querying. And the service is up and running. So and it's communicating with console, right? So this console service here. So it has communicated and it is running off here. So we were able to add the configuration. This all started up. That's all good. That's progress. So what I'm doing right now is adding RabbitMQ so I can do the Rabbit replacement, and then all this configuration, yeah, we'll worry about that afterwards. This is going to be the same for right now anyway. All this configuration is then valid, and we then can move to the next step, which is getting the client app hooked up to it, so configuring the API gateway and getting those pieces. But yeah, it's moving forward. Okay, so what does this look like? It looks like this. So TypeScript index.ts. Kafka reference doesn't return that. Doesn't return that. It returns that. Build rabbit MQ ls service bus. We'll name it for right the second. We don't need a network. We don't need Kafka reference there. What don't you like about that? Oh, that. Return a deployment reference. Return that as deployment reference. So we get a new namespace. We need a service and a deployment. So I go over here, RabbitMQ. So again, just looking at the Docker compose on the screen, it suggests this does need a network of sorts. Which is strange, but that's, and then that's going to be messaging network, service bus network, we'll call it. There you go, dog. You got the squeaker. So that's what he chases. And then the toy is done. Okay, so what we're going to do here is we're going to build a service and a deployment. It's just not going to be so complicated. We need a service. Okay, so we have service is RabbitMQ service. Q. Let's just do RabbitMQ. And then these ports are I don't know what they actually are. So 5672, 5672, 15672, suggesting we'll go with that for right a second. Then we need the deployment. This is going to look closer than that. That's going to be deployment. That's going to be RabbitMQ deployment. RabbitMQ, RabbitMQ. Oi. 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 Dogs. No, I don't need Jenny. They don't get defined. Okay, let me just RabbitMQ. Yeah, we are full version away. 403 latest. Let's do that one. So, morning, Napalm. How you doing? So this is going to be RabbitMQ. Latest. Is there really no namespace qualifier on that one? Yeah, RabbitMQ. pull latest. Network labels. So hold on, that's that. So const rabbit MQ labels equals app q the one day I get my head around these properly. And then and then this might as well just be random names, but don't need them. So we need 15672, 672. And this is going to be what am I going to do? Rabbit MQ ports. AMQP, AMQPS. Okay, there you go. So that's AMQP, and that's S. So 5672, 572. That's fine. And then return service deployment. Okay. Oh no, it's 9 o'clock already. I don't have time for this. So the goal here now is over here, we're going to do build rabbit MQ. Hello, log. You okay? Yeah. Good morning. Hey, what are you doing? You're not having the squeaker? I'm not giving you the squeaker. No. No squeaker. You can act all innocent, but I know what you want. I know what you want. You good? Why don't you go outside and play? He answered, good morning, Loki. Uh, Sally, hello. How you doing? Okay, I'm gonna try and finish. I'm trying to get this to a good place. So const rabbit MQ equals build rabbit MQ with a configuration, and then we're gonna pass. That's gonna be into my shared services, which is a deployment reference. So I do not expect this to be the right way or the perfect way. What I'm expecting is I need to learn, right? And I'm only going to learn through doing. So we're going to repeat this. Services collection, rabbitmq.service.metadata.namespace. So I'm going to learn. We don't need the port for this one, I don't think. I think it doesn't specify the port, does it? So there's a lot of things I'm going to learn. Local, yeah, it doesn't specify ports. Just needs the address for this one. Namespace and address. So then they go on the end after them. rabbit MQ namespace and rabbit MQ. And then the same thing. Come on, you can do this by now. There you go. And then we're just going to replace rabbit MQ. Address. That should just replace that, which will be good. So again, this is a lot of mess right now. It makes it look way more complicated than I think it. Well, maybe it does need to be complicated, but we shall learn. If this works, or when this works, not if, the next goal will be to make the duplicate resolution, liquid sky, networking. Did I give it the same name? No. Create network. Yeah, that would be bad. Name. Let's do this. Const network name. So once this is working, we will get the API gateway up and running, get that configured, then try and figure out if we can get the client to communicate with the API gateway. And if that's possible, then we can get a registration working. When we can get registration working, we can bundle through into the other services and make them work. Because once we've got the Kafka pieces working, once we've got the communications back and forth between the services working, everything else is better. Was not successful. Invalid name AMQP must contain only alphanumeric characters and hyphens. That's interesting. Yes. So that has to be AMQP. Yes. You can't use uppercase. So once I get my head around some of this other stuff, as we go forward, as we start to do more deployments more regularly, like, oh, this feels painful, this feels repetitive, let's spend some time focusing on that. And again, just keep practicing the deployment and not worrying about having it all done as one final deployment, because again, you don't want to run into that world of having to rush once it is in production. Okay, so we have the pods. Yep, RabbitMQ is working. Oh no, it's not. It's crashed. Failed. None of the specified endpoints were reachable. Pods. RabbitMQ. Oh, it's running. Did it resolve afterwards though? We have network. Endpoints, services. Figure out the naming and stuff. Network policies, service bus, and Kafka. Scooby Snacks, hello, how you doing? Okay. bit by bit, day by day, it starts to make more and more sense. Config map, RabbitMQ service. Yep, that's working. So I think we're okay right this second. We'll is it perfect? No. Will everything run fine? Maybe. Maybe. We'll know. But that does, as messy as that seems, because this does seem messy to me. Although I did see an example with something that looked like this. Maybe not quite as many, but it did. We have Pulumi bringing up all the services. We can communicate with the database server. That is working. I'm pulling data. So that's cool. That works. Disconnect that for now. So tomorrow we'll be getting the API gateway up and running. The API gateway is a little harder. And then obviously come back around on this because then we're gonna have to replace the client. We have to figure out how to do a client deployment. Yeah, we're gonna have to figure out how to put that file in place. So just an FYI, the cross-language components in Pulumi are awful. Stick to one language. The situation there is very raw and not well documented. I did get it working, but wouldn't recommend. Yeah, I mean, I saw your comment yesterday, and I was like, but my growth on Pulumi is it is what it is, and again, it's why I'm doing it now and not when I'm finally coming to release the application. The application is good enough to run with. We can build on it, and then we can do regular deployments and test these things and understand those challenges before we actually get to a point where it becomes an actual product. Because then it becomes, yeah, no, you shouldn't have to appease anybody with that. That's should be a yeah. Yeah, Sally, Auth0, um, right now for authentication. Authorization, we're going to come back around on soon, because I have some challenges that I want to talk through and figure out. Because auth when you are multi-tenant is not quite as simple. Yeah. Backend for front end feels like the way to go, in my opinion. I'd love to know what you define as backend for front end. I want to see what backend for front end means. It's an acronym that has popped out, and I have no idea where it came from, or if I've done it and I just don't think of it that way. But I'm not sure what backend for front end means. Literally, an API purpose built for a given front end. Web might be different than mobile. And you're like, your dev backend does make the UI. If anyone's getting good reading material, drop it in the Discord. Okay, so No, no. Pictures. I'm good with pictures. Um, yeah, there's a reason why I have the email, right? Um, I just I do better when I can tinker with things. I don't do good when I'm just saying, "Hey, read this thing," and try and ingest the information. That's why I do. I probably get a lot more terms than I would imagine. I don't like getting into drawn out conversations about the technical aspects of things because it is something that I'm much more comfortable just okay, let's talk about the solution in context of the solution rather than dreaming up big ideas and getting too far out. So yeah, it's probably why I want to do planning the way I want to do it, right? Because then those ideas can be refined based upon actual expectations. So, but I don't think I'm alone. Okay, so this is generally working. It ain't pretty, but it's working. Um, so we'll get there. Okay, so Anna, um, create an issue. Okay, Anna's working on Web API. They are doing SQL stuff with test containers. Looks like so. That's cool. Oh, validating some issues. So let's go raid Anna, and I will be back tomorrow. I will continue on with this as much as I can. Um, I've got a few hours this evening, so I will continue on and try to get the API gateway up and running so that tomorrow we can actually start to hopefully see the actual communication between the pieces working, maybe open up the tunnel and get the actual site registering tenants. That would be pretty cool if we can do that by the end of tomorrow. So Anna works on several things. Altera engine, Altera engine, uh, for game dev sometimes, but also does some web API stuff. And I believe that they are testing a library they built. She built, sorry, um, building, um, oh, I can't remember the name. Discriminated unions. There we go. Built a library specifically for that, and then testing. She's testing that using the game engine, and yeah. So let's raid out. I will see you tomorrow. Thank you very much for joining me. I'm gonna have to run and get ready for work quickly, so I will raid and run. See you later. Take care, all.